those of you who are watching me for the very first time, my name is James Ambroise, and on this channel we cover how to pay off debt faster than any other debt repayment method out there. We cover basic bookkeeping and accounting for someone who just started out a small business. We cover basic personal income tax to include a Schedule C, Schedule E, depreciation. I am also the author, creator of Ambroise Method 2.0. Ambroise Method 2.0 is a revolutionary debt repayment method that offers greater results in terms of reducing interest cost compared to debt snowball, debt avalanche, velocity banking. Real quick about my credentials: I have been or am a bookkeeper and accountant, QuickBooks Pro advisor, senior tax advisor, residential real estate investor, residential property manager, financial coach. And as always, before we get started, what's on the board, please allow me to shout out the name Jesus, my Lord, my God, my Creator. Thank you. All right, America, on the board we have this hypothetical scenario of somebody who filled out one of my Microsoft Excel worksheets, and the person provided me with these figures for debt. This person has a Chase credit card, Navy Federal MasterCard, Regions Home Equity Line of Credit, and a car loan. Okay. Credit limit $4,400, APR 29.49, balance owed $37.92, monthly payments charged $144.10. Availability, America, we've learned on lesson 1 that the availability is the relationship between the credit limit and the balance owed. That relationship calls for a subtraction operation. 4,400 minus $3,792. That's how we arrive at $608. Okay. Credit utilization. Credit utilization is the relationship between the balance owed and the credit limit. That relationship calls for a division operation. $3,792 divided by $4,400. That's how we arrive at 86.18%. Okay. Payment rate charge. Payment rate charge is the relationship between the monthly payments charge and the balance owed. That relationship calls for a division operation. $144.10 divided by $3,792. That's how we arrive at 3.80%. Okay. On the Chase credit card, right now, Chase is not offering any balance transfer promotions. Okay. On the Navy MasterCard, right now, Navy is not offering any balance transfer promotions. And the minimum payment on the Navy has to be at least $20 or greater. Okay. Now on the Regions HELOC, it is a 10-20 HELOCs, which means the first number represents the draw period, so 10-year draw. The next number represents the repayment period, so 20 years repayment, so 30 years total. 10-year draw, 20 years repayment, and right now we're on year 3 of 30. Okay. On the car loan, the term, it's a 5-year term. Okay. Now, person's income, person's on the bi-weekly pay period. The first paycheck will come on the 5th. The next paycheck will come 14 days later on the 19th. And the total take-home pay is $3,358.82. Person's expense, $3,070.82. Out of these expenses, $1,676 could go on a credit card. These are the bills or expenses that could go on a credit card. Okay? The electricity, water, YouTube TV, T-Mobile, property tax, property insurance, groceries, fuel, gas, restaurant. Okay? When you add them up, the total is $1,676. That could go on a credit card. Okay. Person's total debt, $110,188.04. The debt, that's when you add all these balances. Okay. In cash flow, we've learned from prior lesson, America, that cash flow is the relationship between the income and the expense. That relationship calls for a subtraction operation, $3,358.82 minus $3,070.82. That's how we arrive at $288 in cash flow. Okay. Now, from the last lesson, question posed to me was, James, can you use two separate examples on how to utilize Plastiq in order to facilitate balance transfers between accounts? In other words, how to use Plastiq for balance transfers. Okay? So on the last lesson, we've done one of the two examples, and today we're doing the second example. Okay? All right, America, I'll give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at what's on the board, and then we're going to start with the exercise. All right, America. Let's pay attention to the balance owed real quick. On the Chase, $3,792, Navy Federal MasterCard, only $250 remaining. Regents HELOC, $99,080. Car loan, $7,066.04. Okay? So now let's pay attention to the Navy Federal MasterCard. The balance is only $250. When we have cash flow, that is $288. So with the cash flow, we could easily pay off the Navy Federal MasterCard. Okay? But there is a better way. Okay? This scenario for somebody who is a fan of that snowball. Okay? And you know, this group, they believe in paying off the lowest balance first, and then at some point they will cut up the credit card. Okay? America, don't be too hasty, don't be too emotional, don't cut up the wrong credit card. If that is your goal, to cut up credit cards, if that's your objective, please do it in the right sequence. Okay? There's a proper way to do things. There's a not so proper way to do things. Okay? Or there's a wrong way to do things. All right? This Navy Federal MasterCard, let's take a look at the APR. This Navy Federal is only at 15.99%. When we have another account on the board at 29.49%. So this person had no business, because it looks like in the past they've been paying off while they've been sending payments to the Navy Federal MasterCard. Okay? They had no business sending payments to a 15.99% account when there's a 29.49% account on the board. Okay? So for some time they've been working on the wrong account. Okay? Because remember now, for every time you decide to send a payment to the Navy Federal, you're earning back what they're charging you. So for all this time, they've been sending extra payment to the Navy, so they've been earning what they're charging you, which is $15.99. So in essence, they are accepting being charged $29.99 somewhere else on the board. $29.49. So a difference of, let me grab my calculator, $29.49 minus $15.99, a difference of 13.50%. So all this time, every time you send an extra payment to the Navy Federal, you're accepting the fact that you're being charged somewhere else an additional 13.50%. Okay? Which obviously doesn't make no sense. All right? So, if on our method we hate to have to babysit balances from our APR account. So it would be no-brainer to just move the balance from the $29.49 to one of the lower APR account. But since we're dealing with the Navy Federal, let's say we're moving the balance to Navy Federal, which is $15.99. If they were not going to charge us, because remember, we're going to be utilizing Plastiq, okay? And Plastiq charges 2.90% in order to facilitate the transfer. If we had a transfer whereby they did not charge us any fees, then it would be no-brainer to just move the money from the higher APR, move the balance from the higher APR account to the lower APR account. But since they're charging a fee, so we cannot go blindly, so we have to first run the numbers, okay? So when we run the numbers, it still makes sense not to pay off the Navy Federal MasterCard, okay? So even though the balance is close to zero, it's 250 in this example, and we could easily write up the Navy Federal, could easily pay it off. We are not going to pay off the Navy Federal MasterCard, okay? Because it's at 15.99%. All right? So don't let the balance fool you because it's close to zero. You're gonna rush in and trying to get rid of the Navy Federal so you could later on cut up the card, okay? Because remember, there's a right sequence to do things, okay? And again, it's at $15.99. Why are you cutting up a card that's at $15.99? If your goal is to cut a card, you need to cut up or get rid of the card that's at $29.49, not the one that is at $15.99 that is not hurting you much compared to this one. Okay? And again, America, when we run the numbers, it still makes sense, okay, not to pay off the Navy Federal MasterCard. All right? And another thing, from prior lesson, we talked about how we do not subscribe to the idea of cutting up every single credit card, okay? This idea to me is old, archaic, okay? In this modern age, you have to at least have one credit card, at least, okay? And for those of you who wants to only use a debit card for stuff, and again, there are too many hoops that you have to jump through when you only have debit cards, okay? For example, there are some items, for example, if you're trying to make reservation on a hotel, okay? Sometimes you're gonna face some issues if you only have a debit card. If you try to rent a vehicle, okay, you may have to do a lot of different things or go through a lot of different things that you normally not go through if you had a credit card instead. Okay. For example, let's talk about a car rental, for example. Hertz. Hertz right now announces in June of this year that if you're gonna rent a vehicle on a credit card, the hold that they're gonna put on the credit card will be about $200. However, if you're gonna use a debit card, okay, that's if they're even gonna allow you to use a debit card, because some locations won't even take debit cards. The ones that do, the hold will be about $500. Okay, that's if you're gonna use a debit card. Okay. So for credit card, the hold that they'll put on the account is $200. The debit card, that's $500. That is in addition to all the other fees or charges for renting the car itself. Okay. And $500 for some people might be a problem, because remember the statistic, America. 64% of us are living paycheck to paycheck, and 68% of us cannot come up with $400 emergency. So if you cannot come up with $400 emergency, it'll be a little difficult, almost impossible, to come up with $500 additional, because remember, on top of the car, the charges for the car itself, or the different charges, they're gonna put an additional hold of $500 on the debit card if you're gonna use a debit card. Okay. And some other restrictions. If you're under a certain age, they're gonna run your credit report if you wanna use a debit card. I mean, that's too many issues when you're trying to use a debit card. Okay. In the case of renting a vehicle. Okay. So that is some of the issues, America, you'll come across when you're trying to follow this group, that snowball. Okay. So for that reason, again, we prefer that you guys keep at least one credit card. Okay. One credit card. And it's not just for renting a vehicle. There are some other restrictions for other things, but these are the ones that we want to concentrate on for now. Okay. So now, let me give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at this real quick, and then we're going to continue with the exercise. All right, America. And today we're doing lesson number 10. And again, the question posed to me was, James, can you show us examples on how to utilize Plastiq in order to facilitate balance transfers between accounts? Okay. So, America, with Plastiq, Since on the board we have Regions HELOC, which is a mortgage, Plastiq will allow you to make payment to a mortgage, but it has to be certain card brand. For example, it has to be either MasterCard or Discover. You cannot use a Visa card to make payment to a mortgage. So Visa is a no-go. As of right now, we're in October 2023. We're on November 4th. November 4th, 2023. Okay? So as of November 4th, 2023, they're still not allowing you to use a Visa for mortgage payment. Okay? But you could use a MasterCard, you could use a Discover, no problem. Okay? And on the board, we have a Navy Federal MasterCard. Okay? So we have the right card brand. Okay? If we decide to use Plastiq for a mortgage payment. Okay? And my quick disclaimer, I don't work for Plastiq, never receive any compensation for them. It's just I've used their product in the past and you've worked wonderfully for me. Okay? So now, going back to the questions, using Plastiq for balance transfers. Okay. On the board, we have Chase credit card, we have Navy Federal MasterCard. These two credit cards are not offering any balance transfer promotion currently. Okay? So now, from past lesson, we know that we are not handicapped by what the big bank, the big creditor could do for us. Okay? We could still execute our own balance transfers without the help of the big bank, the big creditors. So in this example, Chase is not offering balance transfers. We don't need Chase to do our balance transfers. In this example, Navy Federal is not offering any balance transfers. We don't need Navy Federal to do our balance transfers. Okay? We could still execute, again, our own balance transfers without the help of the big bank, the big creditors. How we're going to do that? We're going to employ Plastiq. Okay? And Plastiq is part of our artificial type of balance transfers. From prior lessons, we've learned that artificial balance transfers are unconventional, creative ways of executing balance transfers without the help, like I mentioned earlier, of the big bank, the big creditors. Okay? So we could still do our balance transfer without these guys. All right? And today we're going to employ Plastiq, just like we've done from the last example. Now, on our method, Ambroise Method 1.0 and Ambroise Method 2.0, we have two different types of users. We have what we call a normal user and we have what we call an advanced user. On our method, we have these two types of users. A normal user, for our purpose, is a user that takes advantage of transfer. That's the T on our tag. That takes advantage of cash flow. That's the C on our tag. A normal user does not take advantage of the alternative account. Okay. Reason why they don't use the alternative account is because they don't quite understand it yet. Because remember, the alternative account is a very dangerous account. Okay? And our advanced user obviously is one that takes full advantage of everything on the board. An advanced user uses transfer, that's the T, uses alternative account, that's the A, uses cash flow, that's the C on our tag. Okay? Now, even as a normal user, America, you're still gonna do better than a dead snowball. Because that snowball only uses cash flow. Okay? Imagine they're doing one of the three items that we have on the board when a normal user is doing two of the three items. 1, 2. Okay? So even as a normal user, America, you're still gonna do better than that avalanche. Because that avalanche, just like that snowball, only uses cash flow. A normal user not only uses cash flow, but doing one additional item than that snowball and that avalanche. We're doing transfer. Okay? And even as a normal user, you might do better than velocity banking. Because velocity banking uses more than just cash flow. In addition to cash flow, these folks chunk, and these folks uses a dead weapon. Okay, but a lot of times they're going about it the wrong way. Okay, because these folks that practice what I refer to as favoritism. Where they use the Regents HELOC in this example for everything. They'll use the Regents HELOC to chunk. They'll use the Regents HELOC in this particular example as a dead weapon, and they use the Regents HELOC in this particular example to keep the cash flow. Okay, so they'll use the HELOC for everything. Okay, in this particular example. And we've learned from past lessons that these three assignments, transfer, alternative account, cash flow, these three jobs, these three elements, you have to use the account or accounts that are best suited for the job. The Regents HELOC, in this particular example, might be good for transfer, but the Regents HELOC may not be good to keep cash flow. And the Regents HELOC, because to keep cash flow, Regents HELOC is at 8.85% when there's a 29.49% on the board. Okay? So the Regents HELOC will not be good as an alternative account. at least not as a first in line alternative account, because the APR is 8.85% when we have a 29.49% on a board and a 15.99% on a board. These APR are much higher than the Regions HELOC, that is at 8.85%. Okay, so that is a quick, brief little review between our method and our competitors. Okay, and we were just talking about the normal user. So now we know if we're talking about the advanced user, those guys definitely will not be able to compete, because they can even do better than our worst options, which is a normal user. So imagine how they're going to fare against our advanced users. Okay. All right, America. I'll give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at this real quick, and then we're going to continue with the exercise. All right, America. Now, let's run Ambroise Method 2.0. All right, America. Ambroise Method 2.0 calls for a series of steps, and those steps has to be taken at least once a month. And the steps are segregate. So how do we segregate, America? We segregate by same account type. So on the board, we have credit card, HELOC, so credit card, that's revolving. Navy Federal MasterCard, that's revolving credit account. Regions HELOC is revolving because the Regions HELOC is in the draw period. Remember from past lesson, when the HELOC is in the repayment period, it's no longer revolving. But this one's still in the draw period, so it's revolving. So far we have 1, 2, 3 revolving account and a car loan, which is an installment credit account. So the way we segregate, I like my revolving credit account on top, and I like my installment credit account at the bottom. So as far as segregation, the list is perfect. I got my 3 revolving on top, and I got my installment, which is the car loan, at the bottom. Okay? So segregation's done. Next, America, we compare. How do we compare, America? We compare by APR between account types. Remember, we have 3 revolving credit account and we have 1 installment account. And the way I prefer them, I prefer the higher APR account to be on top. So out of the 3, we got 29.49, 15.99, 8.85. So that's perfect. Okay, so the first 2 steps, we're trying to put some kind of order on the list. Okay, so 29.99 is bigger than 15.99 is bigger than 8.85 by account type. Okay, and finally we have the car loan, which is an installment. It's by itself, so it's listed by itself. Okay, so the list is perfect as far as comparing. Okay, we would like to again put some kind of order in the list. Okay, so comparing is perfect. And when we compare, America, we try to identify the enemy, the troublemaker. Okay, and the account with the higher APR is the enemy. The account with the higher APR is the troublemaker. For that reason, Chase in this particular example is the enemy. Chase is the troublemaker. So that's the account that will need to attack. Okay. Next, America, we transfer. We only transfer, America, when it makes numbers and math sense. Okay? Because sometimes we might have the ability to do a balance transfer where it doesn't make any sense. So in this case, we're not going to do balance transfer. We only do balance transfer when the number and math makes sense. Okay? All right. And behind the scene, I ran the numbers, and it makes sense. And the way we transfer America, we transfer from higher APR to the lowest APR. So we relocate balances from debt that has a higher APR to a debt that has a lower APR. So let's say which one has the highest. Again, we identify the highest one is Chase 2949. The lowest one is, let's say 15, 8, and 9 is Regions HELOC 8.85. Okay? But on the Regions HELOC, the availability is only $1,120. The payment is $730.72. And the credit utilization is 98.88%. So we're kind of close to our saturation point. So we're close to maxing out the Regions HELOC. Okay? So we have to be careful. For that reason, we're going to leave the Regions HELOC alone because we're close to maxing out that Regions HELOC. Okay? Availability is only 1,000, when payment's 730, and credit utilization 98.88%. We're close to 100%. Okay? Not only that, the availability is only 1,120. Okay? So for that reason, we're not going to touch the Regions HELOC. So now we have to try to transfer from the absolute highest to the next lowest one. The next lowest one is the car loan. So we cannot add to an installment credit account. We cannot add balances to the car loan. Okay? So this one is a no-go. Okay? So now, America, we have to move, trying to relocate balances now from the absolute highest APR to the next lowest APR account. In this case, that's Navy Federal MasterCard. Let's take a look at the availability from Navy Federal. The availability is $4,850. So we have room to make a transfer. Okay? But again, Navy Federal MasterCard is not offering any balance transfers. But we've already identified that we could utilize Plastiq in order to make our balance transfer. Okay. Our goal at the end is to transfer from Navy MasterCard to relocate balances from the Chase to the Navy MasterCard. Okay? And again, taking a look at the availability, we have $4,850 when we only owe $3,792. So we're going to try to relocate the entire balance, which is $3,792 to the Navy Federal. So the Chase will get decreased by that amount, and the Navy Federal will get increased by that amount, $3,792. Okay? That's if we were doing a normal transfer. But remember, America, from lesson number 9, that Plastiq will not allow us to do a transfer from one credit card to another credit card, because this is considered debt product for them, and they won't allow transfers between two debt products. Okay? They won't let you to do transfer between one credit card to another credit card. That's a no-go for Plastiq. Okay? So now, since Plastiq is now allowing us to do that kind of balance transfers, and the credit card themselves are not offering balance transfer promotions, okay? So for that reason, America, we're going to use a workaround. Okay, so we're going to use Plastiq Workaround. And what we're going to use one of the items or multiple items from our bills expense list, from the list of bills or expenses. And on the board, we have items that could go in a credit card, but we already know that's a no-go. The car loan is $500. The Chase, $28.49. Navy Federal, $20. Regions HELOC, $730.72. We could use the regions, but when we're using the regions, we're not trying to pay off this minimum, which is $730.72. We're trying to take a look at the total balance that's owed on the regions, which is $99,080. Okay? Because remember, if we're only trying to pay off what's owed, well, what's owed is only $730. Because in this example, Plastiq will allow credit card payment to a mortgage because they'll make an exception for a mortgage. They won't allow credit card to credit card, but they'll allow credit card to a mortgage. Okay? They'll make an exception for that. But again, he has to be either a MasterCard or Discovery. Okay? And we do have a MasterCard on the board, which is the Navy. Okay? So we have the proper card brand to make the transaction. Okay? But instead of sending payment just for the bill that's for the monthly bill, which is $730.72, okay? We're gonna send a payment for a much larger amount, okay? That way we could get rid of the Chase. And since Chase is set $3,792, that's how much we're gonna make the transfer for, okay? So, in order to get rid of the Chase, all right? So now, this will be our Plastiq Workaround, okay? They will allow us to do transfer between credit card to credit card, which is what we're trying to accomplish. So we're gonna use the Plastiq Workaround by using the HELOC, okay? By sending a payment to the HELOC instead, all right? That's how we're going to do it. So now, let's figure out real quick how much the transfer will cost us, because if we try to relocate $3,792, remember Plastiq charges 2.90% to do the transfer. So let's see real quick how much that is. Okay, $3,792 times 2.90%. Okay, so the fee itself will be $109.97. Let me put it over here somewhere. The fee, $109.97. 37.92 times 2. Okay. That's for the fee itself. Okay. And since we're going to use Navy Federal MasterCard to facilitate the transfer, so Navy Federal MasterCard balance will get increased by the transfer amount itself, which is $3,792, and it will also get increased by the fee, which is $109.97. Okay? So now, since we're not dealing with Chase for now, Chase will stay the same. The credit limit, $4,400. The APR, 29.49%. Balance owed, again, right now we are not touching Chase yet, $37.92. Monthly payments charge, $144.10. Availability 608. Credit utilization 86.18. And payment rate charge 380. And again, we are not touching Chase right now. Okay? We did say we're going to transfer from Navy Federal to make a payment to the Regions HELOC as our Plastiq Workaround. Okay, so now Navy Federal will get increased, like we said, by the transfer amount, which was $37.92, and by the fee itself, which is $109.97. So Navy Federal. The credit limit, $5,100. Trying to get my body out the way. APR, $15.99. Okay. Balance owed. Now, remember, we're going to make a transfer. We're going to relocate $37.92, sending it into the Navy Federal. So the Navy will get increased by the $37.92, so $250 plus the $37.92 plus the $109.97. So total Navy Federal total will be $4,151.97. Okay. Monthly payments charged is $20 minimum or greater. So they're charging, in the case of a flat rate, just to make our job a little easier for us, we're using the flat rate. 4,151.97 times 2.30%. So the new monthly payment charge for Navy Federal is $95.50. Okay. Availability is credit limit minus balance owed. So 5,100 minus 4,151.97. 4,151.97. So availability is 94803. Credit utilization is balance owed divided by credit limit, 4,151.97 divided by 51. So we're at 81.41%. And the payment rate charge $230, but let's run it just for good measure. Monthly payment charge divided by balance owed, so $95.50 divided by 4,151.97. Okay, and it is the $230 like we knew it was. Okay. Regions HELOC, remember, we're gonna use the Regions HELOC as a workaround, for our Plastiq Workaround. So the payment is not gonna be was not sent to the Chase yet. The payment, it will be Navy Federal America to Plastiq, and Plastiq will send a payment to the mortgage for the $37.92. Because remember, that's the mortgage or the HELOC. Remember, we could not do Navy Federal to Plastiq, then Plastiq to Chase, because they will not allow us to do credit card to credit card. Okay? So for that reason, we're going to do Navy Federal to Plastiq, but Plastiq to the mortgage, not to Chase, because you can't do credit card to credit card. So it will be to Chase instead. To Regions HELOC instead. Okay? So Navy to Plastiq, then Plastiq will send a check to the mortgage. Okay? Because Plastiq cannot send a check to another credit card. Alright? So that's our Plastiq Workaround. So now, the HELOC will get decreased because the check will be sent to the HELOC for $37.92. So the HELOC will get decreased by $37.92. Okay. So Regions HELOC. Credit limit 100,200. Okay. The APR 8.85. Okay. Balance owed. Now that balance will get decreased by the payment. Because remember, Navy to Plastiq, Plastiq to Regions. So 99,080 minus the transfer amount, which was $37.92. Okay. So America, we are at 95,288. Do that one more time. Make sure I did not make any mistake. 99,080 minus 3792 is 95,288. Perfect. All right. Regions HELOC monthly payments charge. This one is interest only. So 95,288 times 8.85%. 8.85% divided by 12 for the month. So we are at 702s. Seven five. Okay, let me run it one more time, making sure. 95,288 is the new balance times 8.85% divided by 12. 70275. 702. Perfect. Okay. Now the availability is credit limit minus balance owed. So 100,200 minus 95,288. So we are at 4912. Okay. All right. And credit utilization is balance owed divided by credit limit. So 95,288 divided by 100,200. 9509, so 9510. Okay. And the payment rate charge should stay the same, but let's run it just for good measure. Payment rate charge is monthly payments charge, 70275 divided by balance owed, 95288 should be the same. Okay, sure enough, 0.74%. Okay. And again, America, we're moving money from Plastiq temporarily to the Regions HELOC. Okay. So now our car loan will stay the same because we did not touch the car loan. We've only touched these two accounts. 24,058, 9.05%, 7,06604. Okay. $500. It's a availability. It's a car loan. It's a personal loan. Doesn't matter. It's a revolving, installment credit account. Doesn't matter. And for the car loan, let's do the payment rate charge just for good measure, which is monthly payments charge $500 divided by Balance owed 706604. Okay. Sure enough, it is the 708. So our number was good from before. Okay. All right, America. This is one transfer. Okay. And again, we move money from the Navy Federal to the region's HELOC temporarily. Okay. Now, going back to our steps, segregate, compare, transfer. So we've done one transfer. And now, is there an opportunity to repeat the transfer? Well, let's take a look at the availability. We have availability in the regions now, $4,912. And the regions is at a lower APR, 885, compared to the Chase that has a higher APR. So now we have room now in the regions to make a transfer. Okay? Regions only at 885, Chase 2949. So we always want to relocate balances from a debt that has a higher APR to a debt that has a lower APR. Okay? So now we're going to try to relocate balances from the Chase to the regions now. Okay? Because remember, this money will stay inside the regions temporarily. Okay? Again, America, don't make the mistake that my competitor Velocity Banking now is making by keeping the money inside of HELOC for 3 months, by keeping money inside of HELOC for 6 months, by keeping money inside of HELOC for 9 months, by keeping money inside HELOC for 1 year. Okay? Look at us. The second the money touched down the HELOC, the second, not even a minute later, the second the money touched down the HELOC, we're going to try to move that money to the higher APR account. Okay? Don't keep it at no 8.85%. Okay? When we have a 29.49% on the board. Okay? So move the money, America, quickly away from the HELOC into the Chase. Okay? So send a payment from the HELOC to the Chase. Don't keep it in the HELOC as an escrow account for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. Move it quickly. Okay? A few seconds. A few minutes later, or a few hours later, for sure, less than 1 day. Okay? Don't let the fund remain in that account for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. For us, we don't even want it to stay in there for longer than a few seconds, let alone 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. And again, folks, 8.85%, 29.49%. Why am I sending payment or keeping funds inside an account that only charging me 8.85 when I have another one on the board that's charging me 29.49? Okay? And that's exactly what we're going to do. Okay? We're going to make another transfer. A payment from the regions to the Chase. And the way it probably works depends how your region's HELOC is set up. If you have checks writing privilege or whatever, you may have to go from regions directly to the Chase, or you may have to go from the region's HELOC sending the money first to the checking account. Then from the checking account, you'll send the payment to the Chase. Okay? It all depends how your region's HELOC is set up. Okay? Okay. So if there's some restrictions or you don't have some privileges inside the region's HELOC, well, make a transfer from the region's HELOC to the checking account. Okay? Then use the checking account to send a payment to the Chase. And the payment will be for $37.92. Okay. That's how we accomplish our balance transfers from Navy to the Chase. Okay. So we will be forced to use a workaround by sending the money first to the region's HELOC, and from the region's HELOC back to the checking account, then checking account to the Chase. Okay? Depends how things are set up. Okay? So let's go ahead and do that. So in this case, Chase will get touched. So Chase we're repeating the process. Okay? 4,400. APR 2949. Once we send the payment to the Chase, now the Chase balance will be 0. Okay. Okay. And where am I? Chase is 0. Monthly payment charge can be 0. At least on paper. Okay. There might still be some residual interest or trailing interest, but on paper it will look 0. Okay, it will be 0. Availability is credit limit minus balance owed. So 44 minus 0, so we had 44. Credit utilization is balance owed divided by credit limit, so we had 0. So 0 divided by 4,000 is 0. Payment rate charge is monthly payment charge divided by balance owed, 0 divided by 0, so we had 0%. Okay? Alright. Next is the Navy Federal. Again, we've already dealt with Navy Federal. So Navy Federal will stay the same because right now, all we're dealing right now is the regions to send a check, to transfer the funds to the checking account, and the checking account to the Chase. So these will be the two accounts that get affected. These two for now. Okay, so Navy will stay the same. 1599. 4,151.97, 95.50, 94803. Again, we're not touching Navy Federal right now. 81.41%, 230. Okay. Now, Regions HELOC. We are going to touch Regions HELOC. $100,200. Okay. 8.85. Now, remember, we're sending 3792 from the regions to the chase, well, eventually to the chase. So it'll be 95,288 plus the 3792. Okay, so while we are at 99,080. Okay. And the monthly payments charge now will be 99,080 times 8.85% divided by 12. We're at 70, 30, 72. Okay. Availability, credit limit, minus balance owed, 100,200 minus 99,080, 1120. As you could see, and I keep repeating from what we have from the original example. Credit utilization is balance owed divided by credit limit. So 99,080 divided by 100,200. So we are at 9888. Okay. And payment rate charge should be the 0.74, but let's run it again just for good measure. Its monthly payments charge 730.72 divided by balance owed 99,080. Okay. Sure enough, 0.74%. Okay. And the car loan, again, we did not touch the car loan. Okay. 24,058, 9.05, 7066.04, $500, not applicable, not applicable, 7.08%. Okay. All right, America. As you could see, we use the regions temporarily, so the region's balance is the same from the original figures. 100,200, 100,200, 885, 885, 99,080, 99,080, 730.72, 730.72, 1120, 1120, 9888, 9888, 74, 74. Okay. So that's our Plastiq Workaround. Send the money temporarily to the mortgage, because the mortgage now, remember, it's a home equity line of credit, so that account is very liquid. So you could easily do whatever you want to do once the funds is inside the mortgage or inside the home equity line of credit. Okay? That's how you do your workaround. They will not allow us to do, Plastiq will not allow us to do credit card to credit card, so we'll instead send the money to the mortgage, which is the Regions HELOC in this example. Then from the HELOC, okay, to a checking account, and from the checking account to where our true destination needs to be, which is the chase. That's where the payment needs to go. Okay? All right, America. I'll give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at what's on the board, and then we're going to continue with the exercise. All right, America. Now, with velocity banking, remember we mentioned from past lesson that these folks practices what I refer to as favoritism. They'll use the HELOC in this particular example. Since the HELOCs offer greater liquidity, they'll use the HELOC for everything. Okay, they'll use the HELOC to chunk. Whether this example or past example, use the HELOC as a debt weapon. And they'll use the HELOC to keep the cash flow. And again, America, when the money was inside the HELOC, we did not allow the funds to remain inside the HELOC for not even 1 second. 1 second. Let alone 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. Okay. As you can see, these guys, the region's HELOC, it's good for transfer because we move the money from here to there. Reason why they were good for transfer was because they were at a lower APR. Okay, in that sense, you're relocating your fund, your balances from the higher APR to the lower APR. So that's why you went from 95 to 99. Okay, so they're good for transfer. Okay, these type of accounts. But as far as a debt weapon or alternative account, in our case, they are not good for debt weapon, at least not as a first in line alternative account. Because remember, for alternative account, okay, the first in line is the one that offer greater results in reducing interest costs. While we know when we send payment to the higher APR, we'll get greater results. Because when you send payment to these accounts, you're earning what they are charging you. So if they're charging you $29.49, you're earning $29.49 back every time you send a dollar payment to these accounts. If you send a payment to this account, you're only earning back 8.85. Okay, so why would you want earning back 8.85 versus earning back almost 30%? You want to earn back more, so the $29.99 will be the way to go. Okay, that is why we don't use these accounts as first in line alternative account. But since they offer liquidity, we sometimes use them as next in line alternative account. Those are for bills that could be paid with a credit card. We have the options to pay the bill with a credit card. We have the options to pay with an HELOC. For those bills that could be paid with a credit card, we'll instead pay with a credit card, not the HELOC, okay? Because the HELOC is at a lower interest rate, okay? We want to have the greater savings, all right? And as far as cash flow, these accounts are not good to keep cash flow, okay? Because cash flow is better served in the account with the higher APR, okay? And we're gonna get to that a little later in the lesson, okay? So as you could see, the second the money touched down the HELOC, we're trying to move it quickly to the chase, okay? That's why the balance in the HELOC increased from 95 to 88 by the amount of the payment to the chase, which was 3,792. So from 95 to 88 plus the 3,792, that's how we arrive at 99,080. Okay? Because you don't want to send payment to accounts via transfer and then keeping payment, okay, like keeping cash flow. Okay, that would not make too much sense. Okay, if it was good for me to send a payment to another account in the form of a transfer, while later on I'm continuing to keep payment then for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, I cannot keep income in those accounts. Okay, okay, because you know, you have to have I guess a cohesive way to do things. All right, America. Now, for doing the transfer. Let's go back to our steps. So now we are done. There's no more opportunity for us to do transfers. Okay. The higher APR account is 0 now. The next higher APR is 59.9. So if we try to relocate to the loan, it's a loan, you cannot add to the loan. If you try to relocate the Navy Federal now to the region's HELOC, the region HELOC is close to saturation point, close to maxing out, so we cannot do any more transfer. So in this case, America, all the items that are above the line, there goes the line, okay, has been fully exhausted for this given period, okay. Now we have to go downstairs, we have to go below the line. And below the line, America, you have to answer some questions. Can we use cash flow, or can we make a large payment? Okay. The person in this particular example did not receive any bonus check, did not receive any income tax refund, did not receive any additional fund that would constitute or represent a large payment. So now there's no large payment. So in this case now, we're going to use cash flow. But now, James, let's find out how much our cash flow is. Okay. So this is when you have to pay attention to the monthly payments charged. Okay. On our board, the original monthly payments charge was $144.10 for this account. So now you become 0. So there's a change there. The Navy Federal MasterCard was $20, now it's $95.50. There's another change there. Regions HELOC was $730, now we're back at $730 again. The car loan, $50, so we did not touch the car loan, we're still at $50. Okay? So the way we determine our cash flow, we add all these balances minus the new monthly payments charge. Or we could just do the transaction only for the account that got affected. In this case, 730 stays the same, 730 stays the same, 500 stays the same, 500 stays the same. The only two accounts that got affected is 144.10, which is the Chase, and the Navy Federal MasterCard. Okay, so it will be 144.10 plus the $20 minus the new amount, so minus 0 minus $95.50. Okay, so now, America, our cash flow got increased by $68.60. Which means now our new cash flow, because remember our original cash flow was $288, so $288 plus the $68.60. So now, America, our new cash flow is $356.60. Okay? That's our new cash flow. It was $288, it got increased by $68.60. The total now is $356.60. Okay? Okay, so now we've determined what our cash flow is. Now let's figure out, let's answer the rest of the questions. We have to answer the what. W-H-T. W, which account or accounts. H, how much of a payment to send, and T, to pay off or to pay down or off which debt. These are all the steps, America. Okay? We've done segregate with the segregation. We've done comparing, done transferring, done repeating. Now we're dealing with cash flow. We figure out what our cash flow is. And now we have to answer the what. Which account, How much of a payment to pay off which debt. Okay? Now, which account? On our method, America, we always look for the account that will offer us greater results in terms of reducing interest cost. We always look for the account that will offer us greater liquidity, and we always look for the account that will offer us better movement of income and movement of expenses. So we always look for those three accounts. Okay? Let's start with the first in line alternative account, or the account that will offer us greater results in terms of reducing interest costs. So first in line or greater results. And from past lessons, America, we've learned that the account that offers greater results in terms of reducing interest costs is the account that has the higher APR. Well, let's see who has the highest APR now. Which account has the highest APR? We have 2949, 1599, 885, and 905. The account with the highest APR is Chase, 2949. So that'll be Chase. But Chase, America, is already at zero balance. We already got rid of the Chase. Or at least it's zero balance on paper. So now the next account that has balances with the higher APR is the Navy Federal. Okay? So Navy Federal will offer us greater results in terms of reducing interest costs because it's the remainder account with balances with the higher APR. Okay. Next, America, let's try now to identify the account that offers greater liquidity between these accounts. Okay. Navy Federal, Chase is now gone. Navy Federal is a credit card. On the example, we say only $1,676 could go on a credit card. So the credit card is limited. So that one cannot offer us greater liquidity. Okay? The car loan is a personal loan. Personal loan cannot offer us liquidity. Okay? Regents HELOC, it's an HELOC, and we are in a draw period, which means we could use it and reuse it. Not only that, we could easily move money in and out of the Regents HELOC. So now, America, the Regents HELOC will offer us greater liquidity. Okay, so it's going to be Regents HELOC. Okay. And finally, our third and last account is movement. Okay. And for movement, we generally look for the account that has the highest APR. Well, we've already determined that the account with the highest APR is Navy. Okay. So we generally look for that account. It's not always that account because there's some exceptions, but 99% of the account is the account that offer with the higher APR. So Navy. Okay. So now, America, we have our three accounts. The account for the greater results, Navy Federal. Account for greater liquidity, Regents HELOC. Account for movement of income and expenses, because remember from past lessons, even when we have a scenario where we employ Ambroise's wash technique, again, folks, all these things were covered from past lessons, folks. And for those of you who missed that lesson, Ambroise's wash technique is a technique whereby the same dollar amount of income that comes into the alternative account is the same dollar amount of expenses that goes out of the alternative account. Okay. For example, if you have 1,000 that goes in the account, 1,000 will leave the alternative account. Okay, so it's a wash. Okay, hence Ambroise's wash technique. If you have 2,000 that goes into alternative account, 2,000 will leave the alternative account. Okay, so 2,000 in income, 2,000 in expense. And again, it's a wash. Okay, hence Ambroise's wash technique. Okay, so now, again, we've determined our three accounts. But right now on the board, we have Navy Federal for greater results, and we also have the same Navy Federal for movements. Okay, we have what I refer to as redundancy. We have the same account at two different places. Navy Federal here, Navy Federal there. Okay. We do not want to send payments to Navy Federal and send payments to the same Navy Federal. Okay? So for that reason, we are not going to use this movement. Okay? Because we already have it on the board. Okay? And again, America, we always look for these three accounts. The only time we don't use one is when we have redundancy. Okay, now America, we've identified our accounts. So now let's find out our numbers, okay? Which is how much of a payment to send. Let's find out how much. That's our numbers. So we're going to start with the regular payment. Then for bills that could go on a credit card, then cash flow, and absorptions or absorption opportunity. Okay. Let's start with the Navy Federal. The Navy Federal regular payment is $95.50. Okay. Bills that could go on a credit card. Navy Federal is a credit card. And on our example, we said the bills that could go on a credit card is $1,676. Okay. We know that cash flow is better served, America, in the account that has the highest APR, or Navy Federal has the highest APR, so that's where how your cash flow will go. And as far as absorption or absorption opportunities, let's leave that alone for now. Okay. Now, Regions HELOC, we say Regions HELOC will regular monthly payment is $730.72. Okay. And remember, the credit card took care of the bills that could go on the credit card, but the Regions HELOC has greater liquidity, so the Regions HELOC going to take care of the bills that could not go on a credit card. Okay, and that is the remainder payment. Remember, the person's total income is $335,882, so it'll be $335,882 minus all these amounts. $335,882 minus $95.50 minus $1,676 minus $356.60 minus $730.72 72. And sure enough, the bills that could not go on a credit card is $500. Okay. Or in our example, the car loan, because the car loan need ACH, could not go on a credit card. Okay. So now, America, on the regions HELOC, we have two numbers going into the regions HELOC. We're at 730.72, which is the regular monthly payment for the regions, and we also have 500, which is the car loan. Okay. The regions HELOC America is at 8.85%. Okay. We don't want to send America too much payment or excess payment into an account that's only charging us 8.85% when we have a 15.99% account on the board. For that reason, America, the Navy Federal, which is the account with the higher APR, will absorb one of these two amounts. Okay? But now, James, which one will he absorb? Okay. Now, this one is a little tricky, because initially, while we were doing our Plastiq Workaround, we sent payment $37.92 to the regions HELOC. So that's why the regions HELOC went down from $99.80 to $95 from the original example. So the regions HELOC received payment that was $3,792. Okay? So this $3,793 of payment that we initially sent via Plastiq to the regions HELOC, that's why the regions HELOC went down from 99 to 95. Okay? That payment depends on the timing. Okay? That payment depends on the timing, supposed to satisfy the 730.72, because 3,792 America is greater or bigger than 730.72. Okay? And on the regions HELOC, the due date is on the 10th. But remember, America, we're using a third party to send the check. So we're using the third party to send the payment from the Navy Federal to regions. So it was Navy to regions on our initial transfer, or our initial payment. Okay? It was, Navy to Plastiq, then Plastiq to regions. Okay? And Plastiq, in the case of a check, the payment normally arrives to the recipient within 8 days. Okay? So now, depends on the timing, when regions HELOC received the actual check from Plastiq, If they receive the check, say for example, we send the check on the 1st, and it took 8 days, so Regions will receive the check on the 9th. If we send the check on the 2nd, let's say to the entire 8 days, Region will receive it on the 10th. If we send the check on, we did the transaction on the 3rd, Region will receive it on the 11th if you took the entire 8 days. Okay, we have no control as to when Regions will receive the check. Okay, remember, Regions payment is due on the 10th. So it depends on the timing. Okay, that's when we'll know which amount will be absorbed by the Navy Federal. Now, if the payment arrived before the 10th, so let's say on the 9th, or even on the 10th, then the 730.72 will be satisfied, because remember that we're sending $3,792 originally from the Navy Federal to the Regions. Okay, that's why the balance went down again from 99 to 95. So if the payment got to the Regions anywhere before the due date or on the due date, so now the Regions payment will be satisfied. So in that case, we don't need to send an additional 730. We don't need to keep an additional 730.72 inside the Regions. We'll move that amount to the account that offer greater results, which is Navy Federal. However, on the timing, if the payment the check arrived anytime after the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, anytime after the 10th. So now, no payment has been made. In that case, the check did not get to Regions HELOC on time. So which means now, no payment has been made to the Regions HELOC. In this case, then, Navy Federal will absorb the smaller amount. See? Depends on the timing. Navy could absorb either the 732.72 or 500. Because remember, if the payment gonna arrive after the 10th, which means we have to make the payment ourselves, okay? Because we don't want to be late. So if we're gonna make the payment ourselves, okay, 500 will not satisfy the payment because 500 is too small. So if we send 500 to pay a 730.72, okay, we're gonna be short. So we have to send the 730.72 instead. If the payment did not touch down, the check did not touch down the Region account yet. Okay? So in this case, then, the Navy will absorb the 500. But if the payment, the check from Plastiq already hit the account, so in this case, the payment already been satisfied, so we don't need to send the additional 730.72. So 730.72 will be absorbed by the Navy Federal. So America, depends on the timing, the Navy will absorb either the 500 or the 730.72. Okay? Because again, we're dealing with third party. Okay? They're gonna be doing processing the payment. Plastiq gonna be doing cutting the check. Plastiq gonna be doing mailing the check. So we have no control as to when the check arrives to the destination place, destination account, which is Regions HELOC. Okay? So be mindful of that, America. Okay? So for that reason, we're gonna use the worst case scenario on our example. we're gonna allow Navy Federal to absorb the smaller amount instead of the larger amount, because we have no control as to when the check will arrive from Plastiq to Regents HELOC on the initial transfer from Navy Federal to the credit card. So that's why the Navy Federal got increased and the Regents HELOC, I'm sorry, got decreased. Okay? All right. So let's do worst case scenario. Let's say that Navy Federal only absorbed the smaller amount. And again, depends on the timing. It could be either or. Okay? All right. I hope I explained this thing clear enough. All right. So now, America, let's figure out our numbers. Okay. The total now is for Navy, in the case where they absorb only the smaller amount, which is $500. So you'll be $95.50 plus 1676 plus 356.60 plus $500. So the total for Navy is 26, 28, 10. Okay? And the total for region is going to be, since this one's got moved up, only 730.72. Okay? All right. That's our numbers so far. So for account, you'll be, which account? You'll be Navy Federal and Regents HELOC. And how much? Navy Federal 262810, 262810, and Regents HELOC 730.72. Okay? And next, to pay off which debt? Because we have to answer the what? Which account? Navy Federal, Regents. How much? Navy Federal will keep 262810, Regents 730.72 to pay off which debt. Okay? Marco, let me give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at this real quick, and then we're going to continue with the exercise. All right, America, here's some stuff. So last questions we have to answer is to pay off or down which debt. Okay. So this is the workflow. Okay. Persons receive 2 paychecks for this given month, one on the 5th and one on the 19th. Let's assume those 2 paychecks are equal. The total was $335,882. So $335,882 divided by 2. 167941 167941. And that's the total for the 2 paycheck. Okay. Now on the first paycheck that touched down the checking account on the 5th. So money touched down the checking account. So where will the money go? Okay. This is when America, you have to pay attention to the bills and expenses that are on the board, especially the bills and expenses that you need cash or cash equivalent for. Okay. Over here, all these could go on a credit card. The electricity, the water, YouTube TV, T-Mobile, property tax, property insurance, groceries, fuel, restaurant. The car loan is an ACH payment. So you will use your routing number and bank account information to make that payment. It's an ACH payment. This one, the car loan, is due on the 26th. Chase is already gone, so now Chase is the new amount is 0, at least on paper. Navy Federal, the new amount, you went from 20 to 95.50. And Regions HELOCs stay the same, 730.72, 730.72. And the car loan, $500, $500. Okay. Now paying attention to the due date. This one is on the 26th. These are all on the 28th, and they're on a credit card. So first paycheck should be able to take care of those. Combined with the second paycheck should be able to take care of those. The car loan is on the 26th, and the car loan is for, the payment is $500. We have a paycheck that's coming up on the 19th. And it's $1,679. So that paycheck is large enough to cover the car loan, which is only $500. So this due date will not be a problem because this one's coming up. The car loan 7 days later. We got a paycheck on the 19th, and 7 days later, the car note is due. Chase, we already got rid of Chase doing our initial transfer. Navy Federal is due on the 24th, and the new amount is $95.50. 24 is 5 days later, so the paycheck, we have a paycheck on the 19th. The 24th, that's 5 days later, so that paycheck is large enough to cover the Navy Federal. Then we have Regions HELOC. Regions HELOC is coming due on the 10th. If we wait for the second paycheck to take care of the Regions HELOC, we're gonna be late. Because the Regions HELOC is on the 10th, which is before the second paycheck. So which means we have to pay the Regions HELOC on the first paycheck, on the 5th. So the paycheck on the 5th will cover anything from the 5th all the way to the 18th. So this one is between 5 and 18th. So the first paycheck has to take care of the Regions HELOC. Okay? And we are assuming that, again, when we send the payment from Navy Federal to Plastiq, the payment did not arrive on time to the Regions HELOC. The payment got there, the check got there after the 10th. That's what we're assuming, okay? So for that reason, we have to reserve some funds to take care of the Regions HELOC, okay? So now this is how it's going to look. $1,679.41, touch down your checking account. So where does the money go? Of course, some of it gonna go to the account with the higher APR. And that is the Navy Federal. But remember, the Navy Federal is a credit card. We want to reserve at least $730.72. okay, to take care of the Regions HELOC that's coming due, okay? So you will be the 1679.41 minus the 730.72. So Navy Federal will receive only 948.69. Okay? And we did say that the Regions HELOC will receive again 730.72. 730.72. Okay? And when you add these two up, so the checking account will keep 0. When you add these two up, the total should be 1,679.41, and let's run it just for good measure. 948.69 plus 730.72. Sure enough, 1679.41. Okay? That's on the first paycheck. Now on the second paycheck, 1,679.41, touch down your checking account. So where does the money go? Okay. Navy Federal total supposed to be 2,628.10. Navy Federal only received 948 on the first paycheck. So now Navy Federal gonna receive the remainder, okay, which is 26,208.10 minus 948.69. Okay, so now Navy Federal gonna receive on the second paycheck 1,679.41. Okay, which is the total for the second paycheck, which means Regions HELOC not gonna receive anything because Region HELOC total is 730.72. They've already received the entire 730.72 on the first paycheck, so they're not gonna receive anything. Just like the checking account that's gonna keep anything. Okay. That is the workflow. Okay. Do not make the mistake by sending all the funds to the account that offer greater results, Navy Federal, because remember, we have bills that's coming up due, and those bills you need cash for or cash equivalent. Okay? So you have to be mindful of that. All right? Now, we've determined which account receive how much. Okay? Now let's figure out to pay off which debt. Okay? The Navy Federal will take care of all these bills that could go on a credit card. That's the Navy. Okay? The Navy, the chips are already gone. The Navy will keep its own minimum payment, $95.50. Okay? And all those bills that could go on a credit card was $1,676. Okay? Navy Federal will keep its own minimum payment, $95.50. That's this one. Navy Federal will absorb the new will receive the new cash flow, $356.60. And Navy Federal will keep that ACH payment, $500, because Navy Federal will absorb it. Okay? Now, remember, even though Navy Federal observed it, Navy Federal cannot make a payment to a car loan because this particular lender wants ACH. Okay? So now, which account then will pay the car note? Well, the Regions HELOC will take care of the car note. Regions HELOC will take care of itself, 730.72. Well, James, we only have 730.72 total inside the regions. Okay? Remember, America, how this alternative account works. When you send 730.72 to the regions, okay? Remember, it's an alternative account. So that payment, 730.72, got satisfied. Okay? So now that was the income coming in. And then the same account, remember Regions HELOC offered liquidity. The same account, okay, will take care of the car note. So 730.72 will go in, and 730, and then 500 in expenses will go out. Okay? And again, you'll send a payment for 730.72. That was on the second paycheck. Okay? I mean on the first paycheck. 730 on the fifth. 730.72 goes to the regions. So that takes care of that payment. Okay? And later on, 500 for the car note, okay, will be moved from the Regions HELOC to take care of the car loan. And the car note is due on the 26th, so you're gonna leave the money inside the Regions HELOC, the 500 bucks, all the way to the 26th. Then on the 26th, you move the money from the Regions HELOC okay, to the checking account. And from this checking account, you do your ACH transactions to the car note. Okay? And it will be for 500 bucks. Okay, guys? Remember, you send a payment of 730.72. Now you have 730.72 sort of available in the account, and you could easily, do transaction that's only 500 bucks, which is a lot smaller than 730.72. Okay? All right, folks. Okay. This is how you do it. Okay? So, on those paychecks, as soon as they touch down the checking account, don't leave the funds inside the checking account. Move them quickly to these accounts. Okay? Navy Federal 948.69 on the first paycheck, which is on the 5th. So on the 5th, Regions HELOC will receive 730.72. And you keep the funds inside the Regions HELOC all the way to the 26th before you move it, okay, from the checking account back to, from the Regions HELOC back to the checking account for 500 bucks. And the checking account now has 500 bucks, that'll take care of the car note. Okay? That's how you do it. Okay? And again, to review earlier, because we did not know when the check from Plastiq gonna touch down Regions HELOC. Okay? For that reason, we were not sure which of the two amount Navy Federal will observe. Okay, depends on the timing, whether observe the 730.72 or the 500. Okay. So if the check arrives late, well, you need to make sure you leave enough money to take care of the payment for the Regions HELOC. So in this case, we'll leave the larger amount, 730.72. Okay? Which means the 500 will be absorbed by the account with the higher APR, because we do not want to leave excess funds inside an account that's charging us 8.85, which means every time we send a payment, we're saving 8.85 compared to another account on the board at 15.99. Okay, so that's why Navy Fed will absorb the smaller amount in this particular example, since we were unsure of the timing of when the third party Plastiq, okay, will send the check and when the check will arrive to the mortgage, the Regent's HELOC. Okay. All right, America. I'll give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at this real quick, and then we're going to continue with the exercise. All right, America. This is our complex case study, and Ambroise Method 2.0 covers the more complex stuff. Okay, it's really easy. Okay, under our normal transfer, it would have been Navy Federal again to Chase. So we would relocate 3792 from the Chase into the Navy Federal. So the Navy Federal will get increased by 3792, and the Chase will get decreased by 3792 under a normal transfer. Okay, but remember, these credit card companies currently are not offering any balance transfers. Okay, so now we are forced to utilize a third party, Plastiq. Okay, Plastiq charges 2.9% to facilitate the transaction, but Plastiq put a restrictions to where you cannot do credit card to credit card. Okay, so for that reason, America, you were forced to do credit card to a mortgage because they allow an exception for that. Okay, our goal really is to transfer from credit card to credit card, but Plastiq won't allow credit card to credit card, but they will allow credit card to mortgage. So we send the payment from the Navy to the mortgage. Okay, so that's why the Navy got increased by the amount of a transfer, which was 3792. The Navy Federal got increased by the fee that Plastiq charges, which was 109.97. Okay, so now since we send a check, at some point the check gonna touch down the HELOC. The HELOC will get decreased by the amount of the check, which was 3792. So 99,080 minus 3792. That's how we arrive at 95,288. But remember, our goal is not to keep the funds inside the regions. Our goal is to eventually move the funds to reduce what we couldn't do. So we had to use this type of workaround. Okay? Okay. So first the Navy got increased. So the mortgage got decreased. So we could increase the mortgage again in order to send a payment to the Chase. Okay? So now finally, once we finally make the payment to Chase, Chase will get decreased by at least 3,792. And that's why Chase balance became 0. Okay? All right, America. Next, remember, we did a transfer. We relocate 3797 from the Chase into the Navy Federal. Well, let's see, for doing that type of artificial type of balance transfer, how much money America were able to save for doing that transfer. Okay. Chase And again, we transferred 3792. But Chase is charging what's charged 29.49%. So now let's see how much money divided by 12. Let's see how much money we're able to save for the month. $37.92 times 29.49 in the Chase one. For the Chase account, 29.49% divided by 12. 93.19. Okay. Remember, we moved 37.92 from the Chase to the Navy. That's why the Navy got increased from 250 all the way to 4,151. So Navy 3,792 times, on the Navy they're charging $15.99, so every time we send a payment to this account, we're saving what they're charging us. They're charging us $15.99, we're saving $15.99. Okay. Let's see how much that is real quick, America. 3,792 times 15.99% divided by 12. We are at 53. Okay. Now, let's see how much we're able to save. It would have cost us $93.19. Now it's costing us $50.53. So it's $93.19 minus $50.53. So we're saving $42.66 for the month. That was for doing balance transfers. Okay. And America, you know we have other debt repayment methods that only uses cash flow. So now we're going to compare balance transfers versus cash flow. Mainly, Debt Snowball uses cash flow only, and Debt Avalanche uses cash flow only. Okay, so let's start with Debt Snowball. Okay, in Debt Snowball, this group wants to attack the lowest balance first. So from our original example, the lowest balance is $250. Okay. And what they'll do to the lowest balance, they'll send cash flow to it. Well, cash flow is $288. The balance is only $250, which means there's going to be some money left over. Okay? And the fund that's left over, they're going to want to attack the next lowest account. The next lowest account, the next lowest balance is, let's see, 3,792, 99, and 7 is 3,792. So now they're gonna have 250 going to one account. Remember, the total cash flow is 288. So 288 minus 250, it looks like we are at 38. So, and when you send 250 to that account, you're saving what they're charging you. On the Navy, they're charging $15.99, so you're saving $15.99. Okay. And the remainder 38, remember it's 288 total. The remainder 38 will be sent to the next lowest account. The next lowest account, like we said, is Chase. Okay, from the original example. So they're charging, when you send $38 to that balance, you're saving what they're charging you. Okay, you're saving $29.49. So 38 at $29.49. Because remember, these folks, this group only uses cash flow. Okay, so they're gonna send cash flow to this account, 288 to knock out the 250, the remainder 38 to knock out the next lowest account. So 250 times 15.99% divided by 12. So we are 3.33 and 38 bucks times 29.449. 29.49% divided by 12, so it'll be 0.93. So in total, they'll save 3.33 plus 0.93. So in total, they'll save $4.26 for the month. Now, debt avalanche is another debt repayment method that only uses cash flow. So let's see how much debt avalanche will save for the month. And these folks want to send cash flow to the higher APR. From the original example, the higher APR account was Chase. So they'll send 288 to reduce 3,792 by 288. And in the process, they're saving what they're charging us on the higher APR account, 29.49. So they're saving 29.49. So it'll be 288 times 29.49% divided by 12. Okay. 288 times 29.49% divided by 12. So that avalanche will save $7.08. Okay. And these guys uses cash flow. All right. Now America. Take a look at the numbers. Both that snowball and that avalanche will save respectively $4.26 and $7.08 for the month for using cash flow. Meanwhile, for doing balance transfer, you'll save $42.66 for the month in interest savings. Okay. Which one, America, would you rather do? Follow a method that'll save you $4.26 for the month. In the case of that snowball, follow a method that'll save you $7.08. In the case of that avalanche, versus just doing balance transfer, that'll save you $42.66. So which one is larger? Which one will give you a greater savings, bigger savings? $42.66 for doing balance transfer, a depressing $4.26 for using cash flow in the case of that snowball, a depressing $7.08 for using cash flow in the case of that avalanche. Okay. As you could see, America, these other debt repayment methods will never be able to compete just like we mentioned from last lessons. Remember, on our method, cash flow, balance transfer, and cash flow are not in competition with each other. Remember, on our method, we have the tag. Depends what kind of user, okay? It's either transfer and cash flow or transfer alternative account and cash flow. So on our method, we have both. We have transfer. We also have cash flow on our method. We have both. They are not in competition with each other on our method. They work together on our method. They work in conjunction on our method. They work in concert on our method. We have transfer on our method again. We have cash flow on our method again. Okay. Both that snowball and that avalanche, these two groups, they won't go far enough in eliminating debt quickly. Look at the results. 426, $7. Not only that, these folks, they only use this cash flow. As you could see, America, cash flow is too small. Too small. It'll get a little better from month to month, still too small. Cash flow will not go far enough in eliminating debt quickly. That's why you can't just do part of the assignment, which is cash flow. You have to do all of the assignment. Transfers, alternative account, cash flow. When paying up debt, majority of the time you're just wasting your time using only cash flow, which is what those two debt repayment methods are doing. Majority of the time you're just wasting your time by using cash flow only, because these two methods only uses cash flow. You have to consistently attempt or try, to improve your APR position, America, via transfers, via payments, via movements. Okay? Now, remember, America, when we did the transfer from the Vifedo, and using Plastiq discharged us a fee. So the transaction was not free. So now let's figure out how long it's going to take to recoup the fee. Okay? And the formula to recoup the fee is the fee itself. So 109.97 divided by how much we're saving per month. For the month, $42.66. Okay, let's run it real quick. 109.97 divided by 42.66. So it'll take us a little over 2 months. To recoup the fee that we were forced to pay in order to facilitate the transaction. Okay? So, a little over 2 months, which means, America, that it was a good transfer to execute. Okay. Now again, for the folks who wants to follow that snowball, even though we're at 250 remaining in the Navy Federal MasterCard, okay? Please, please, please resist the urge for paying off that account, because this account is at 59.9%. When you have another account at 25.49%, almost 30% on the board. Okay? Yeah. If your goal again is to cut up credit cards, okay? Please make sure, America, that you're cutting up the right credit card in the right sequence. Okay? Don't cut up a 59.9 credit card when you have a 29.49. You need to try to cut up, if that's your objective, to cut up cards. You need to try to cut up the higher APR card first, not the lower APR card. 59.9 is not hurting you as much as a 29.49 is hurting you. Okay? So resist the urge. Don't be too emotional about it. I just want to attack lower balance, lowest balance so I could cut up the card. Okay? You got to do it, America, in a way that's not going to hurt you. Okay? Because you're going backwards by sending payment, constantly to a 59.9 when you have a 25.49 on the board. Especially after you've already learned how to achieve best of both worlds. And best of both worlds was that you want the account with the higher APR. In this case, it was to 29.99 to have the lower balance. That's best of both worlds. Okay? This one had the higher APR. We wanted to have the lower balance. Not only we reduce it to lower balance, we'll reduce it all the way to 0. See? Instead of cutting up the Navy Federal MasterCard, you want to cut up the right account instead. And again, if your objective is to cut up your credit card, you want to cut up the enemy in this particular example, not the Navy Federal, okay? When you compare these two. And again, in this modern age, we don't subscribe to the idea of using debit cards for everything, okay? When you're gonna be forced to jump through all sorts of hoops, okay, for not having a credit card. Especially in the case where you're trying to make a reservation for hotels, in the case where you're trying to make a reservation for a vehicle, you're trying to rent a car, okay? Covered that earlier in this lesson. Okay? So cut up the right credit card, not the one credit card. At least you got to do it in the right sequence. Okay? And again, these folks, they could achieve best of both worlds. In the case of that snowball, they have the lower balance on the low APR. And again, folks, let me erase some stuff. When you have, for that snowball, when you have the lowest balance, okay, we covered that from last lesson. And for those of you who missed that lesson, okay, they want to attack the lowest balance. A lot of times, the lowest balance has a low APR. Which was a disadvantage. Okay? And for this group, America, in order to have best of both worlds, you want your lowest balance to be on the highest APR. that avalanche, these groups wants to attack the highest APR. And a lot of times the highest APR has such a high balance, which again is not really a disadvantage, but some folks, it creates some form of disadvantage because we have people with different mentalities, okay? So the best of both worlds for these guys would have been the highest APR. On the lowest balance. Okay? So, and again, that snowball, the lowest balance from the original example would have been Navy. But the lowest balance is on a low APR, which was a disadvantage. Because the folks who know about the math don't want to keep sending payment to a 15.99% when there's a 29.49 on the board, almost 30% on the board. Why are they sending payment to 15.99 when there's a 30% account on the board? So that don't make no sense. Okay? So that was a disadvantage. That's why you want lowest balance but higher APR, not lowest APR. Okay? Because remember, every time you send payment to this account, you're saving what they are charging you. You want to save $15.99 when you could save $29.49. Okay? And that avalanche, in this particular example, it is, let's see, 29, 15, 8, it would have been the chase. And Chase has the high APR, but Chase did not have low balance. So the lowest balance was $250. Chase has high balance, $3,792. Okay? Best of both worlds would have been highest APR that they want to attack, but lowest balance. $3,792 was not the lowest balance. Okay? And in order to achieve best of both worlds, look at what we've done. Okay? The chase one, we completely got rid of it. Now what we are left with is the lowest balance. 4,151 is lower than 99,080 bucks, is lower than 7,066. Not only we have the lowest balance, the same account that's the lowest balance for us has the higher APR, 15.99. Okay, because all these are gone. Okay, lowest balance 4,000 is lower than 99,000, is lower than 7,000. Highest APR 15.99 is higher than 885, is higher than 905. Okay, and we're able to do that via Plastiq Workaround, and it takes us 2 attempts to achieve that. On the last lesson, it took us 1 attempt. On this lesson, it took us 2 attempts to achieve best of both worlds, which is lower balance, that's the Navy Federal, and highest APR, that's the Navy Federal. From the accounts remaining, that is a balance. Okay. In this example, we ended up with Navy. Okay. That is why America, you have to constantly, perpetually relocating balances from higher APR to lower APR. Okay? Because by doing so, you could achieve best of both worlds, which really is not the main goal really. The main goal really is to improve your APR position by always relocating balances from lower APR to higher APR. You're going to improve your APR positions. Because remember, America, These are borrowed money. Okay? And interest is the cost of borrowing. You borrow the money, they charge you interest. So for that reason, you're trying to pay least interest possible. You don't pay more interest. Okay? And again, remember where we are. 64% of us living paycheck to paycheck. And 68% of us cannot come up with $400 emergency. Okay? Don't be an enemy to yourself by attacking lowest balance, lowest balance, lowest balance. And we've proven that 99% of the time attacking the lowest balance is the wrong options to do, wrong options to take. Okay? There is a better way. Okay? All right, America. I'll give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at this real quick, and then we're going to continue with the exercise. All right. All right. To my financial coaches, and again, I'm talking about every single financial coach in America. Okay? If you are presented with a situation like this, okay, please resist the urge of paying off that account, because just because this account is close to zero, okay, resist the urge of paying off that account. Okay? And this will be one of the many ways you could bring value to your clients, okay, by showing them that there is a better way. Okay? Now, we know when you're doing these transfers, if there were not any balance transfers fee, it will be a no-brainer. So just go ahead and do it, because you know you're relocating balances from $29.49 to $15.99. But since they're charging a fee, don't go blindly and start doing transfers, because remember, we only do transfers when it makes numbers and math sense. In this case, run the number first to see if it still makes sense to do that transfer, then you proceed. Okay? Because remember, the original cash flow, and again, the interest rate, the difference in interest rate, $29.49 minus $15.99. The difference in interest rate is, let's see, 0, 9, 5, 6, 3, 13, 990, 14, 5, 6, 9, 3. So the difference in interest is $13.50, okay, between the Navy Federal and the Chase. And not only that, remember the original cash flow was $288. You know, if you pay off this account, all you're gonna gain in cash flow is $288 plus the $20. So $288 plus $20. $288 plus the $20. So now you're gonna get 0.8, 10. So now you're gonna get an additional $308 in cash flow. Okay, for paying off that account. Okay, 288 original cash flow plus, okay, on the snowball effect, you're gonna get an additional $20. So altogether, you're gonna have a new cash flow of 308 if you decide to pay the 250 first. Okay, Meanwhile, on our example, for doing the other route, our cash flow was $356.60. Okay. So again, which one is bigger? I got $356.60 versus 288 plus the 20, which is 308. Okay. So here I got a bigger, larger snowball effect for paying off the Navy Federal first. And if you follow in that snowball group, you're gonna get a smaller baby snowball effect to go towards the next debt versus a larger, bigger snowball effect to go towards the next debt. Okay? You see? That's how you show value to your clients. So again, to my financial coaches, please, please, please resist the urge of paying off the lowest balance first. Okay? Because you could clearly see that the client will be going backwards. Okay? In this particular example. And 99% of the time, well, a lot of times, paying off the lowest balance is the wrong approach. Okay? When you're paying off debt. Alright? And again, constantly, perpetually relocating balances from higher APR account, from a debt that has a higher APR account to a debt that has a lower APR. And we have all sorts of strategies and techniques to help you achieve that. Okay. Got how many different ways we're doing transfers. Normal, again, that's one. Artificial invoice charge pay technique, that's two. Charge pay technique inducement, 3. Plastiq, 4. Meteor, 6. Similar entity, 7. So we have, just like I mentioned from the past lesson, at least 7 different ways to execute balance transfers. So 7 different ways at least to improve your APR position. Because remember, from our past lesson, improving your APR position is much more important than improving your cash flow position. Okay? All right, America, I'll give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at this real quick, and then we're going to continue with the exercise. All right, America. Again, for most of you who've been using that snowball in the past, that avalanche in the past, velocity banking in the past. Okay? There is a better way. Alright? For that reason, America, again, I would love to see a day when I get my butt kicked by that snowball. I would love to see a day when I get my butt kicked by that avalanche. And finally, America, I would love to see a day when I get my butt kicked by velocity banking. America, it's never, ever going to happen. Not only are we doing everything else better than these guys, truly know how to execute property balance transfers and how to utilize property alternative accounts. Okay? All right, America. My name is James Ambroise. I am the author, creator of Ambroise Method 1.0 and Ambroise Method 2.0. Ambroise Methods is a revolutionary debt repayment method that offers greater results in terms of reducing interest cost compared to debt snowball, debt avalanche, velocity banking. Thank you, Jesus. Until next time, America. Good morning.